Go. Hello. Um,
Hi.
I'm Matthew, and who is this?
You don't know who I am? Damn. I'm getting egoed. Okay. I'm John. John
Yeah.
Mavrick.
Okay. And yeah, so this is the first episode of combating information overload, and it's just a podcast about interviewing other YouTubers or whoever I feel like interviewing about how they manage their information and how they conquer or combat information overload. Will be hopefully this can provide you some sort of examples on how you can combat information overload by showing you workflows of other people. Um, so yeah, John, tell me about like what do you think about information overload and like how do you manage all the information that comes your way, like whether that be from like the internet or just like daily life.
Information overload. Before this call, I was actually thinking about it a bit because I was on like my afternoon walk and I was just like walking around trying to like think of things to put in fleeting notes.
Oh my gosh.
But
Oh, wait,
like,
wait.
no.
Sorry to interrupt you there. But just for a little bit of context, John and I here, we were both working on Fleeting Notes, which is really like a short form note taking app for knowledge management, just to give you a bit of context. But
Yeah.
we're co founders.
So I was just trying to like let my empty my brain, I guess, from like the day's events. I don't know. I was just confused and I was just like curious because if I look back at like all the different interests and stuff I'm in, there's just so much content to consume. Like
Hmm.
I'm into like gaming, I'm into like anime, and then there's like the whole nother field and like the professional side of like my programming interests, like my business
Hmm.
interests. So it's like there's so much fucking stuff to wait, am I allowed to swear?
It's okay. It's fine.
Okay. There's so much shit to consume, man. It's crazy. So, and
Uh-huh.
like the amount of like influencers there are, it's just like there's so many people out there, man. So much content. And yeah, I think information overload is a growing problem in terms of like, I don't know, trying to think on what you should be consuming for like your entertainment, for just
Hmm.
like general improvement in your life. And yeah.
Yeah, it's especially different for you too, because it's not like you can just have this like just consume information mindlessly. Like you are also a content creator on YouTube. You need to consume information in such a way that you can utilize some of that information to create content. Um, so like tell us a little bit about like the content that you create on YouTube.
Um, well, my channel is currently branded around technology, improvement, and productivity, but I'm just riding the Obsidian MD bandwagon right now. So I just post content for that app. It's like different workflows, different tips, and yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really hard to sounds like it's really hard to like do what you like and you're just focusing on Obsidian right now because that's what people like.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I still do enjoy creating Obsidian content. Would be nice to like branch out into other things, but I think we're getting off topic.
Ah, true. You're right. Okay, anyways, so you're creating Obsidian stuff. Um so what what goes into like creating this like content? Like what different types of information do you come across? Like for example, like do you listen to like podcasts, audiobooks and stuff like that? Like what or like read books? Yeah.
Hmm. I mean, in terms of Obsidian, I mostly I don't know, because I had like my initial phase of learning the app where I had to learn like all the different concepts, like maps of content, and then like the app itself through
Hmm.
documentation and just playing around. So most of that was just in the form of YouTube videos and like newsletters like Eleanor Connick's Weekly Roundup.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, that's honestly the best resource out there for learning Obsidian.
Hmm.
But yeah, like honestly, I don't really think I took much notes on like note taking because instead of taking notes, I just applied them.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
like in
that's
other
the thing.
aspects, oh,
Yeah.
like in other things like my newsletter, well, like I consume like a lot of articles, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of books.
Mhm.
So then I do have to like record the ideas and then like combine them into like my outputs, like my newsletter.
Mhm. Like, do you is it just like sort of like articles online? Like, is it mainly articles online, or are there like other sorts of things that like
Um
podcasts, audiobooks, or I just want to know if like there's like different types of sources that come in.
Well, for the most part, like in my typical day, I usually just consume like on my way to work, I have like a 20-minute walk, right? So then
Mhm.
I before that, I go on like my recommended YouTube feed and I just like add a bunch of videos to my watch later. So then once I'm on my walk, I just like start playing them in the background. And then
Uh,
if I like come across something, I'll add it to fleeting notes and then take a note on it.
mhm.
But yeah. I do and then I do like to read books as well, but I don't know. I haven't had the time to do so recently. Been busy
Mhm.
with a bunch of other stuff. But I used to read a book a week and I
Um,
took notes on that stuff in Obsidian.
Anyway, tell us about a little bit about your workflow with like books, for example. We'll start with books.
Okay. For books, I have two different kinds of like two different methods of consuming it, I guess. Cuz my first one would be I just like okay, well like am I allowed to say I illegally download them? I don't know. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I illegally
yeah, it's
download
okay.
them.
Most of us do, or at
Okay.
least most of us in this
Okay.
call do.
So I download them and I put them on this app called Caliber, which lets me like read it. So then I put Caliber on one side of my screen and then Obsidian on the other. So then as I'm reading, I can like highlight and then I can
Oh,
also take notes
mhm.
while I'm writing. I mean while I'm reading.
That's
And
cool.
in Obsidian I have like these different templates because I have one note for like maybe the ideas I had while reading it, and then my other note is like a summary of it because like my top three quotes, like a 3 sentence summary of the book, some of the more actionable takeaways, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's like me like reflecting on what I just read. So instead of just like mindlessly reading it and then moving on to the next, I actually put in some time to to actually like apply it to my life.
Honestly, that's one of the hardest things I find with books too, because like unlike you, for me, like it's just I read not in like my desktop setting.
Yeah.
Like I just read on my phone or like on my Kindle, and it's like much
Hmm.
harder to be able to do that. Like, do you ever do that, or are you exclusively reading on your desktop?
I do prefer desktop the most because it helps me like organize things and then like
Hmm.
I don't know, it's just way more convenient in my opinion for like actually turning it into action. But when I do read on my Kindle, I go highlighter happy, man. Like I just highlight so much. So then like when I process it in my Obsidian, there's like 10, 20,000 words. I'm like, what the fuck is the point of highlighting when there's this much stuff? So, like
Yeah, I feel
I
like at
don't
that
know.
point you may as well just like highlight the whole thing and be like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm done.
So like I don't know. I guess that is something I still need to work on. But
Yeah,
yeah.
honestly,
I I
yeah.
should probably start thinking of instead of like highlighting everything, I should start like kind of processing the ideas as I go through it. Like instead
Hmm.
of just like highlighting something and having to look back at it later on, I can highlight it, like add an annotation. But it's hard to do in Kindle. So like I'm trying to think
Definitely.
of other forms. Maybe
Hmm.
a cool short form app could help me with that. I don't know.
Oh yeah, what are you hinting
Yeah,
at?
I don't know. Definitely not fleeting notes or anything. But yeah.
Yeah, I heard I know some people, especially people I've talked to, they've one solution that they've come across is as they're reading, they use like voice assistant like okay Google or Hey Siri, and they
Mm.
ask them to write that note for them. I don't know if that's something you would ever do. For me, I personally find it weird to like talk while I'm reading. I'm just like in the zone. I'm like boop, boop, boop,
Um,
boop.
I mean that's what I do for like my YouTube videos, like that I consume on my way to work because I don't want to like stop and just start typing while I'm walking. So I just like open up fleeting notes and I just use like the voice to text. And I'm just like, yeah, blah blah blah. This is an idea I want to keep, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
So like that would be a good idea to do for books as well. But I don't know. Most of the time when I read books, I'm like in transit with like a bunch of other people. I just want to like start talking about like I don't know philosophy or like I don't know productivity. People are gonna look at me like, what the
Yeah, I'm a
fuck
little
is
bit
he on?
shy too, like when
Yeah,
I take that note, like I was just like, oh, I could do a voice note, it'd be much faster, but I'm like, I would just type it out. Like it's gonna be weird if I start talking to my phone.
yeah. Like this guy's schizo or something. Like fuck. Like I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, so that's good. That's good to know about how you do books. So is that like a similar workflow when you come across like YouTube videos for on the desktop, for example, or like articles? Like, tell us a bit about
Um,
that.
I also have like I wouldn't say I have the exact same workflow because for books I go a bit more in depth in like my
Mm-hmm.
processing since there's a lot more content and there's like just a lot more substance that you have to like process and work towards. But I don't know, it varies because on some videos or like articles there's like one takeaway, but you're not gonna like dedicate a whole note to that like to that article because of that one takeaway.
Yeah.
Like, how do I explain it? But then like sometimes you have like a super long essay with a bunch of different ideas. So then I have to create a note for it. And then I dump down all my thoughts, all the highlights. So
Mm-hmm.
it varies. But for the most part, I do create literature notes from the
Mm-hmm.
articles and videos I consume.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do like to just generally watch more long form content. I don't really watch TikTok or like Instagram reels or shorts.
Yeah.
So
So tell us a bit about literature notes. I don't think everyone listening might not know what it is.
To be honest, I don't really know either, but like there's fleeting notes where it's like temporary reminders for your thoughts, right? And then like another kind, or some would say it's like the next step, are literature notes where
Mm-hmm.
you just take notes of just anything related to the content you're consuming and you just
Mm-hmm.
like keep it all in one place to be processed later.
I
But in
see.
my case, I like to just keep it as its own note.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a bridge to like all of the ideas related to it.
So, like literature notes, like based on your definition, is like one single note for that particular source that you're
Yeah.
currently consuming, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then you just like use that note to like dump like all your ideas from that
Yeah.
source into that note.
Yeah. And then sometimes I'd also like turn those into like atomic notes, but recently I
Mhm.
haven't.
Yeah, it's a grind.
Yeah. No, I feel like for like most content nowadays, like they mostly just revolve around one idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, like in some sense, they are already atomicized. You just have to like make the connections to existing nodes or like other resources that are related.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I do treat my literature notes as like permanent notes as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I know we're like throwing around a lot of words here. So atomic note is so I explained the literature note, but atomic note is like a like single functional note, like a unit note that you can reuse it in different contexts. One example could be like Pythagorean's theorem, like, and you just have a note specifically just about like the theorem and maybe like a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Um, and then you just
But
like
then
reuse
where are you
that
gonna reuse that note though?
one.
Other than
Oh, if
your math
you're in a
textbook in
math,
your
I
math
always use
class.
that. That's my go-to example. Like I don't know any other theorem.
What the fuck?
I hope everyone knows what it is.
Dude, maybe there's like some toddler watching this, man. Who
Oh
knows?
God.
Ah,
If a
it's
toddler is
whatever.
watching it, that means I'm successful. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Cool. So from the sounds of it, you have like all these information. You try to put it into like, for example, a literature note, and maybe put that into atomic note, and then fleeting notes kind of go in the mix with literature notes in that same sort of area.
Yeah.
Um, so like once you have like all these notes captured, and let's say you want to create for example a newsletter or a YouTube video, like how do you go about like gathering this information and like utilizing this information to create content?
Hmm. Like, do you want to talk about this from like a theory standpoint or like obsidian standpoint? I guess they're kind of related.
Just honestly, whatever you do, like what do you do?
Okay.
I want to know what you do specifically.
Well, I mean, in terms of my YouTube, like this the content I create on my YouTube channel like isn't really documented. Like I said before, it's just me
Mm-hmm.
like describing how I use my vault. So there's not really like any notes I take for that. I just like I look at my vault. I'm like, okay, so how do I do this? And I just like
Mm-hmm.
write that down into like a script, and then I create the content for it.
Yeah.
But so my if we talk about like my newsletter, maybe where like it's like a weekly recap of my life,
Mm-hmm.
then I do like to like store the different notes I create based on the day that they created in. So then
Mm-hmm.
like at the end of the week, I'll just like look through all my daily notes and see what kind of content I consumed, what kind of thoughts I had, what kind of things I did, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
just put that all into my newsletter and just like squish them all together. But when I'm actually like expanding on an idea, like if I maybe want to like learn something or rediscover or like refine an idea based on the contents in my Obsidian vault, then hmm, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to go at it because you could just like directly search using the quick switcher. Just like type in the name
Mm-hmm.
of the node and then hopefully you have a note on it. If
Yeah.
not, you can just maybe go to like a higher order note. Like if I wanted to learn something about like um, the effects of content consumption and like your beliefs, but I don't really have a note that's that specific. Maybe I can just have like a note on like social media or like just content in general, and then like
Mm-hmm.
slowly try to find like what information I have related on that topic.
Mm-hmm.
And if that doesn't work, you could just do like full text search where you search through like all the text in your notes containing that idea, or you just have to like figure out what kind of keywords or relevant phrases are related to the idea you're trying to expand on, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, um, I don't know, I just write like
Yeah, you
I
just
have all
really
my
just kind of put it
resources, and
together.
then yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So that's is that mainly for your like your newsletter then? Like you that's when you mainly do the search sort of thing, and then for your YouTube videos you just kind of like pump out the content like in one go.
yeah, pretty much.
I see. I see. And then um like what for your newsletter, I guess like you like have like all the notes that you've written for a week, and
Mhm.
then you like for example as you go through each note and then you start like processing them and making it into your newsletter, and then like if you have like for example one specific topic you're like, oh man, like I'd like to see my thoughts in the past about this, then
Yeah.
you search with the Obsidian. Is
Mhm.
that
And yeah, for the
uh,
most part, I do get to utilize my previous notes when trying to like research these ideas, which
that's
is pretty
cool.
cool.
How do you find like being able to like use your previous notes? Is that like how does that feel for you?
I mean, like I also used it for school, but I don't really see myself using like any of my linear algebra notes or geology notes. But like in terms of maybe some of the areas I'm like self-learning, like maybe coding or
Hmm.
um like my YouTube channel, I do find myself like revisiting these notes and like improving them and refining them
That's
as
cool.
like find more content.
Hmm.
Because like from the literature notes and fleeting notes I take, I just add them to my already existing notes. It starts to like build like this web of ideas, which is honestly like I wish I had this at the beginning of my life.
I feel you. I
And I can't wait to
absolutely.
see like how it's grown like throughout the years. Because I've only been using it for like 1 year, 1 year and a half.
Mhm.
So like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, so I know like we've been talking a lot about like content creation specifically, and I feel
Mhm.
like most of our listeners, if there are any actually, are content creators. um, and you said a little bit about how like you use this for like self learning and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, is there anything like different that you do for self learning as opposed to like for content creation?
Um, let's think here. Like I don't know. Should I like talk about maybe how I like created my starter vault or something? I guess it's like something recent where it's not really well. I guess it's content as well. Like what's something that isn't really like content based, just
Like
like a skill.
what you mentioned earlier. Like for example, you said programming, right? Like how do
Yeah.
you like when do you capture like notes? Like when do you find things that are like you learned in programming, and like how do you like capture that and be able to revisit that in the future as a reference?
Okay. In my work, I had to recently learn a new front end framework for JavaScript called
Mm-hmm.
Angular. Probably a bunch of random words for like people who are not into coding, but it's just like a new way of programming that I had to learn. So although there are like lots of resources out there on how to learn Angular and maybe like
Mm-hmm.
tutorials, I prefer to have like my own set of notes for it because it's like it's tailored to the way I think and to my
Yeah.
use cases.
Mm-hmm.
Because like these articles, they might be like more tailored towards the general audience. So just having something like my own personal Wikipedia is like super helpful.
Yeah.
And it's not just like the fact, it's not the process of fuck. Okay. There's also more benefits than just like revisiting these notes later on, because just like the process of taking these notes like helped me. It's helped me like see like the structure and like see what I've learned so far, and
Mm-hmm.
just helped me like slowly build up like my knowledge base of the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
then if I do need to like remember something, instead of like finding the article, I can just look at my notes and it's like way faster
I
and way more
agree.
relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, like for like I've been personally like a culprit of this. Like I would do the same Google search on Chrome and then just like scroll through my results and then and then click on it and be like, oh,
I mean,
this is the same answer I looked for like maybe like the past 5 times.
you still haven't taken a note on it. What are you, a fake note taking guru?
Oh, you got me, you got me. Yeah. Um yeah, totally. And actually that like brings me back towards like fleeting notes too, and which is why I started fleeting notes, because I felt like for me to like do that context switching with Obsidian, like that was too frictionful for me, and that kind of slowed me down and made me not want to do it. So I wanted to find a way so that I can be able to quickly jot down like a note, for example, like a programming note in your case,
Yeah.
um, and then have it there in the future for me to reference really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. That is still something I have to like play around with, I guess, because instead of necessarily taking those notes in like fleeting notes, for example, I just like chuck them all in a daily note and like process them later.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
like
so
and
I
that's the great
mostly
work.
use the app for like mobile stuff when I'm
Mhm.
literally on the go. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel that like that's like that's awesome. Like having like whatever workflow works for you. Like I know like note taking is actually a very personalized
Mm.
thing, and like some people exclusively write. You know, like I could never do that, but like some other people, it's like this is like that's their Bible, and they write in that every single day. Um, for me,
Yeah.
it's like it's got to be something electronic. I know like any sort of piece of paper, like it just disappears from me. Even like receipts, like when I'm holding a receipt, like it's automatically crumpled. Like there's
What the
no
f-
there's no uncrumpled like piece of paper. I don't know. Like anytime I have a receipt in my hand, like and then
What the
I look at it, it's like why is it crumpled?
you take a look at the price you spend and you're like, fuck, I
Yeah.
can't deal with this,
No,
man.
and the thing with this is like even Costco, like I don't know, like this is a bit off topic, but like whenever I go to Costco, like they
Yeah.
give you this receipt and then you have to keep this receipt until you go to checkout because like the person like looks at the
Oh
receipt.
yeah, yeah, like they cross it off.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they make sure you have like all that you actually bought the items that you purchased.
Yeah.
So like there's a bunch of times where like I just crumple it and like dump it away. Like I just find it like unconsciously too. Like I just crumple it and it just goes into the trash can. I'm like, oh shit, like where's my
So
receipt?
what the
And like I had to
fuck
like
do you
search through the
do?
trash cans and like, oh shoot, like here it
There's no way you actually had to do that.
is. No, actually. Um,
What? There's
but
you're
yeah, like
wow.
that's probably
That's
just a me thing though.
yeah.
But yeah,
I
like
mean
paper is no good. It's got to be digital or else
that
it'll be gone forever.
that is true. I do prefer my digital. Like I don't remember the last time I actually wrote something like for in terms of
Mm,
like note taking or like just personal stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, so I think that's it. Uh, all my questions have been exhausted, and thank you for taking the time to join in on the first episode of Combating Information Overload. Hopefully, this will be a success.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Goodbye.